I think education is very important. Hell, it's the reason why I'm not on summer break right now. I'm doing another spring semester, and Canvas is shut down nationwide. Uh, in case you don't know, Canvas was hacked by cyber criminals, and no one's able to do their work. Not me, not my professor, not my, not my fiance, no one. So, but hopefully that gets resolved relatively soon. But anyways, education is very important. You learn a lot of things that are pretty simple. That is, they have simple answers to somewhat complicated questions. They may be complicated questions, they might be simple questions, but you'll more often than not find simple answers. But sometimes there are complicated answers, because you have to deal with the gray. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with this YouTuber named LaserPig, but he goes over this idea, which I'll kind of paraphrase in a shorter time than he does. But if you want even more detail, watch his video called Shut Up About Cultural Marxism, where he talks about Timmy. Timmy is the example that he uses as someone who goes to school. His favorite subject is history, and he finds out about certain things, like the bits of history on World War II, where Americans kind of did something that shared similar parallels to what Germany was doing in the 1940s. There were internment camps that held Japanese Americans captive throughout World War II. Kind of like what the SS were doing in the 1940s. Another example is the Civil War. Like, reasons for why the Civil War happened. In primary or, elementary education, you learn that the reason why the Civil War happens is slavery. But over time, you kind of learn even more factors as to why the Civil War happened, like other driving factors other than slavery. But for the most part, it really is slavery, like the majority. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be considering those other variables to why the Civil War happened the way that it did. There's a lot of gray in those pieces of history, and Timmy is confused by it. So he wants to ask his teacher about it. The teacher can respond in one of two ways. For one, the teacher could say this: "Well, you seem to be thinking very critically about this, which is very good to see. So here's my invitation for you. Dig deeper. Look into different sources that you can find in the school library or the public library. I'll even share some sources with you that you can look into and come to your own conclusion. See what you can find." Alternatively, the teacher could just say, "I don't want to do that." In that alternate scenario, Timmy can be very frustrated, and the more gray that he looks at, the more that he finds within all of this history, the more frustrated he becomes, the more he feels like that there are lies and secrets encoded that, that just don't make any logical sense. He becomes a conspiracy theorist. Now, that process can take years, but that's just the quick way of summarizing what LaserPig kind of goes over. But I'll link his video in the description. Get some popcorn. It's like a 2-hour video. I'm not going to do that to you. What I instead want to kind of share here was my experience working with a conspiracy theorist. Now, this was in a retail setting, and I'm not going to share his name. I'm just going to refer to him as S. My interactions with S kind of tie in with my Timmy example that I shared here, because it has a lot to do with how he approaches logic. Lack thereof, I guess. We've had casual conversations, many of which revolve around space, because at the time when I first kind of met him, I was heavily involved in BYU's rocketry program, which I mentioned in a previous video. And I'll probably talk about a little bit more because I just love space. It's cool. But then he goes into the conspiracies of we never went to the moon and there's a firmament layer that prevents any and all rockets from leaving the atmosphere. And one of the examples that he mentions to back both well, I'll mention both examples. One, it's the Buzz Aldrin clip of him saying, "We didn't really go to the moon," to a little girl. And also, for the firmament layer bit, there's the Starship explosion. Specifically, I think it's the one where Starship 25 flew, and then the booster exploded trying to do its boost back burn. So the former example with Buzz Aldrin, that's the simplest one, so I'm going to knock that one out first. So he cuts the clip after he says we didn't really go there. I would watch the full clip, and I would come to your own conclusion. In my mind, he phrases it as in, we didn't really go there to stay, because we just kind of abruptly stopped. We were supposed to go up until Apollo 20, but it kind of ended at 17. There's a reason why we have Saturn V's sitting on their sides and as display pieces at the space centers. Now for the firmament layer, there's a few things that I can pick apart here with that Starship launch. So, yes, the booster does explode because of technical failures, and it's not because it hit a physical barrier. So, the firmament layer is at a very specific altitude, which the booster explodes far below where the firmament layer actually is. And the second stage Starship is able to surpass that altitude where the firmament layer is. So that doesn't really add up. But the thing that conspiracy theorists mostly tack on is, well, the rockets can't go straight up because of the firmament layer, so they have to go to the side. Well, yes, they do, because that's how orbital mechanics work, and it's the most efficient way that you can go to space. If you want to learn how that works, by all means, watch Scott Manley or play Kerbal Space Program. It's a great way to see physics in action. I'll even give a physics lesson right here. Throw a ball. The harder you throw it, the further it flies away from you. If you're to throw it hard enough, then you might be able to get it to circle around the Earth. Because as it falls, gravity's still pulling it down, but the ground kind of pulls away from you because the Earth is round. And I say that very specifically because he's also a flat earther. Flat earthers are interesting because there is no universal model that they can agree upon. So when I ask him, how far is the moon? How far are the moon and the sun away from Earth at any given time? He can't really say, and there's a reason why I can't remember for the life of me what numbers he used whenever we talked about this. But I've heard some arguments saying that the moon is only a few thousand miles away from Earth. If that was true, then we should be able to see even more parts of the moon than we already do. We should be able to see even more craters from, the sides and the edges than we actually do right now. So it must be a projection that's put into the sky, right? But even that doesn't work. Here's something that you can try to kind of demonstrate what I'm about to say here. The easiest way that you can model the moon as a projection is taking a picture of the moon, printing it on a piece of paper, and looking at it from different perspectives. Let's say you're looking at it straight on, and it looks like a sphere. Now take 2 steps to the left and look at the moon without turning the paper. It looks all weird and distorted, right? So, the best model that we have, and the one that makes the most logical sense, is putting the moon 240,000 miles away from Earth. A simple question that you can easily answer with simple logic. And he throws that off to the wayside and goes with unexplainable circle jerk. Those conversations that I've had with him are fascinating and they're just funny to look back on. What isn't funny is the racism. Yes, that is a real conversation that we've had, and it had to do with an interaction that he had with a customer. So, S was working on the sales floor, I was in the cash pit. I didn't hear or see the conversation, but there are witnesses on different days where similar things have happened, and there was someone kind of across the room that kind of saw everything happen the way that it did. And he was talking to this lovely Hispanic woman. I think she was a mom, and, she had a kid with her. And they were looking at camping gear, I guess. And she left. I don't remember if she bought anything, but she seemed nice. But S came up to me, and he was just he had a really pissy attitude. And he was just like, all Mexicans they're all the same. They're always like, help me, you have to help me. Give me, I'm gonna take. And, they don't consider me. They're all the same, and they always come under this guise of, I came here legally, I'm living here legally, but they're really not. And I didn't even give him a second more to speak. And the first thing I said was, shut the fuck up. Like, plain and simple for a second. I think he was about to speak up about something else, but, I don't even remember everything that I had said in that moment, but I just shut that down as quickly as I could. And I was just like, it's not fair to her to assume what her background is, and it's not your job to assume where she came from. Everyone's human. We're all neighbors. We need to treat each other with respect, and that can't happen with you here. So you need to grow up, shut up, and just do your job. He didn't say anything after that. I didn't leave any room for argument. And what I didn't know is that he had done this multiple times, and there were many people that testified to that and confided that to me personally. And there was something that didn't really occur to me at the time, but I decided to look into it for the purposes of this video just because I thought it was important to share. There's a certain conspiracy theory that most conspiracy theorists fall on. It's not everybody, but there's a sizable amount that do. And that is the Great Replacement Theory. There's a lot to that. I mean, there's a Wikipedia article that you can read where you can find out more about it, and there's different university articles that you can find that kind of go over this. But basically, it's white people getting replaced by non-white people. Whether that be Muslims, whether that be, I guess, Asians, whether that be Hispanics. I guess that's the most applicable one for this example specifically. But I didn't really think about that until I did. And that's when the connection with all of these conspiratorial thoughts and the racism kind of clicked. And it made even more sense when someone told me that he was comparing himself to... Yeah, I didn't hear that myself, but that was something that was confided to me. And honestly, I was surprised that he was even working there still. And I just decided to tell the higher-ups what happened, just because this is not a friendly, safe work environment for myself, for other people that are not white. Like, S refused to shake the hand of a black person who was like a new hire for the store. You don't get more blatant than that, right? So I decided to give it like a couple of days so that he wouldn't know that I was the one that reported him, which I reported him to the higher-ups, and I was amazed with how quickly they worked to get him out of the store. Because it was like the day after, or 2 days after, I filed that report. Because I was working there, and all of a sudden I heard S saying, I don't know what happened, this is my last shift, and then I'm not coming back here. And my poor managers, they were scrambling to figure out everyone's schedules just because all of this was so sudden. But honestly, I was just so impressed with corporate's quick work of alleviating that terrible, terrible situation. So, I've just been thinking about that recently, and I guess if you were to look for one big takeaway from this whole experience, it would be as follows. Don't be like this cornball. Hope you found this interesting. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you again very soon.